So as you've been told, I'm recording this section. If you don't want your face to be shown, then please take it off. I've been paying a lot of attention to what's been going on in COVID-19 and wanted to share what I've learned with people. First, I have to learn how to advance slides. There we go. So this will be a 10-minute romp into where we are and where we're going. I'm going to give you some context and caveats, and then tell you something about the data that I've been able to get access to, and that I think you will find valuable, and follow and finish up with my thoughts and recommendations. So, context and caveats. First caveat is I'm not an epidemiologist, but that's okay because these people are at CIDRAP and they've shared fantastic information about what's going on. The second caveat is at best data analysis is only as good as the data. So we've gotten data from OPW, from New York State, from New York City. If that data's not good, then the analysis isn't good. Another caveat to recognize is that no one has the answers. One of the first things that the epidemiologist will say to you is they're not sure what the future holds. In terms of context, and whoever's shuffling paper, if you could mute yourself, that would be great. In terms of context, I want everyone to remember that most of us were joking about this back in early March. This virus caught us flat-footed, and there's a tendency now to look back and to blame, but I think we have to look back and learn instead. Two more pieces of context. We're tired of the virus. The virus doesn't get tired. And last, this is incredibly sad and upsetting. We're going through as a society, as a service delivery system, as parents, as providers, we're going through something incredibly sad and upsetting. So first piece of information to give people is about herd immunity. There's some people, not everybody realizes how far we have to go. The epidemiologists estimate it's going to take 60% of the population having either been vaccinated or getting the disease and recovering before we have herd immunity. New York City, which has been one of the hardest hit parts of the country, of the world, only has 20% herd immunity. I'm sorry, only 20% of the people have been exposed to it. So we still have a long way to go. What happens in a pandemic historically is that each and every time as a society, the old saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Historically, each and every time we get fooled twice. This is a common pattern where there's a first big peak and then a second much bigger peak. And this is one possibility for what COVID-19 will do. It's also possible that it'll kind of do peaks and valleys. It's also possible it'll do a kind of a slow burn. But until either we get a vaccination that gets 60% or more of the population immune, or people get the disease, until one of those two things happens, we will have hotspots popping up periodically, and we're going to have significant activity for the next 18 to 24 months. This is just getting started. We're not coming down off the peak. We're coming down off the first peak. This is where we are as a United States society. The deaths per day is starting to come down. So that means maybe we're here, maybe we're here, maybe we're here, we don't know, but we got a long road ahead, and we need to recognize that. So data, basic and analyzed. Snapshot data has been reported by OPWDD periodically, once a week or so. They've been reporting the data, and this is incredibly sad. We have 392 confirmed COVID deaths. 90% of those are in the downstate region. New York City, including, of course, Queens, and 9 other counties. The other 4 boroughs, the 2 counties of Long Island, and then these 4 downstate counties. 90% of those deaths, and this is OPW's wording, are in certified settings. So we don't know whether those are group homes, ICFs, what combination it is, but we know that 90% of the death has occurred in certified settings. And it's been a lot of death, and that's very sad and worrisome. It's coming down. At the first date on which OPW gave us snapshot data was April 17th. So from that we can count, and then they've given it every 6 to 8 days. So from that we can do an estimate of what the daily death is. We don't know if that's the exact pattern, or if it was going up and down day by day, but we know that week by week it's been going down to a low rate now. But again, unfortunately, this is just getting started. In terms of data analysis, I'll be publishing this, so I'm not going to go over this in detail right now, but the most upsetting statistic for me is that in the downstate certified settings, there have been 18 deaths per 1,000 people. And that figure is 9 times higher than the figure for the general population of New York City. New York City, it's been 2 people per 1,000. It's been 18 per 1,000 in our downstate certified settings. The only population that's higher than that is nursing homes, where it's closer to 60 people per 1,000. None of this is opinion. This is just doing math on the snapshot data, including this. This is doing math. This is comparing, starting on April 17th, this pale pink line is what has happened in New York City. We don't know what happened in the IDD population prior to this, but treating the rate of death in New York City and the rate of death in the IDD population in April 17th as one, we can see how it's gone down in New York City since then, and we can see how it's gone down with the blue line with the IDD population since then. So it's kind of kept pace, it looks like. So I don't know, and this is, now we're getting into the first time I'm expressing an opinion rather than just giving the math. I don't know, did we learn a lot about protecting certified settings between April 17th and May 22nd? Or was the reduction in the number of active cases in the surrounding community, is that what drove the lowering of the death rate in our population? And that's a question we have to ask ourselves. Are we actually smarter today than we were 6 weeks ago about how to protect people? And the reason that's so important is we're not at the 60% of the population having herd immunity, and more of this stuff is coming. So if we're not any smarter than we were on April 17th, then when it climbs again in the surrounding community, it's going to climb again in those certified settings. New York City is a candidate, going to be around for 18 to 24 months. And if we don't do something different next time, then it will once again run through certified settings, and I'll have the sad task 6 to 8 months from now, I hope this isn't true, we don't know what comes, but my fear is that I'll be doing a presentation about how we're now up to 50 or 60 per thousand fatalities in that certified settings. I believe, and this is now, if it's not obvious, I'll state it, this is now completely my opinion. We've gone beyond data analysis. I believe we have a responsibility, a collective responsibility to conduct a clear-eyed analysis and find out who has had, in the downstate area, who has had high fatality and low fatality. And out of that analysis, extract and publish good practices, either things that actually worked or things that we think might work in the future. We have a responsibility to prepare for the next onslaught. And our main obstacles start with the friggin' virus, but then go on to things that are more human nature. Blame and secrecy. Neither of those two things help us. Denial and despair also will not help us. Unfortunately, and this is completely my opinion, I believe we have weak leadership from the White House on down that is an obstacle. And it's being hidden by my subtitles, my apologies for that, but time and leadership, I'm sorry, time and expense that's needed to extract those good practices is an obstacle. And the expense of those good practices is also a potential obstacle. So what I'd like to do now is to ask you to imagine or relate what are some of the good practices? What do we think we already know, or what do we imagine would be good to do? And I just brainstormed with myself. Here's some of the things that might be good to do: training staff, providing sanitizer stations throughout the residence, screening staff and visitors, allowing visitors if they have a negative infection test within the last 3 days, using transparent barriers is another possible best practice. So that's what I had to present to people today. I hope I didn't drive people into despair, but I hope that I've given you a basis for action, and I hope I've helped you believe that we need to take action. This ain't going away. It's almost certain as we can be of anything, it's going to come back. And it's going to come back to New York City, and we need to prepare to be ready for it.